All right, Chapter 4, Blanche, Finding a Teacher. As I began my training in Hakomi following that life-changing week at Esalen, I also began to pursue the kind of Zen training my new friend has told me about at San Francisco Zen Center. This was all before the internet, so I searched out phone numbers and information the old-fashioned way, writing letters and waiting for responses in the mail. I was determined to sit in a real Zendo with real monks and hear a talk by a real Zen teacher. So I managed to arrange to travel from Texas to California to Green Gulch Zen Farm just north of San Francisco. I had not had an opportunity for any personal instruction before arriving, and I had absolutely no experience in Zen forms. Even though I had meditated in various ways for many years, I actually had very little formal meditation experience. But I had been reading my Buddhist books preparing for my plunge into the world of Zen training. I was sure I would be able to manage just fine. And I was determined and quite earnest, even though I didn't really know what I was getting into.
The
Just
entire,
Peg, a comment is we don't know who this is who's talking.
Well, it comes right after Flint's chapter. So,
Yeah, but still.
I mean, he's just carrying forward from what he said in the previous chapter. I
I don't
think
know.
I think it's pretty obvious. So he's talking about that week at Essendon. That this
Of course, we've all slept since then. I
right.
think if you're reading it and you turn the page and this is the next page you read, then it's very clear. For those of us who have short memories like me, I was like, But yeah, so I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have a question about the first sentence. As I began my training in Hakomi following that life-changing week in Esalen, I also began to pursue the kind of Zen training my new friend has
That's
told me about.
that should be had.
He
Yeah.
had.
Yeah. I'm making notes about these things.
Okay, I think Donna's next.
Yeah.
that entire day was shockingly unpleasant. I had chosen to arrive the evening before the retreat and to sleep in the Zendo meditation hall. I wanted to be present and ready for my special day of serene meditation. Of course, I had hardly slept, so I was tired. And a bit disoriented when the wake-up bell rang well before dawn. It was unbelievably cold. I was anxious, tense, sleepy, confused, and in physical pain most of the day. I was memorized by all the formality around me, and I was swept along in a kind of trance in this new foreign world. A good friend came to retrieve me at the end of the day, and we drove up out of the valley mist and the eucalyptus fragrance of Green Dragon Temple through Sausalito and back to San Francisco. We moved through the traffic of the city and then south toward Big Sur along one of the most beautiful stretches of coastal highway in the world. I hardly remember the drive. I was in a state of shock from the day that had unfolded as a powerful, difficult, and painful surprise. And the biggest surprise of all, it didn't take long for me to begin to make plans to return.
I think it's you, Kim.
Yeah, I was just writing down. He's got a lot of extra spaces after the periods.
Yeah.
I did return only a few months later, but this time to City Center, the original home temple of San Francisco Zen Center. I arranged to be a guest student for 1 week. I was welcomed warmly and fell into the daily temple rhythm with beginner's mind. As I lived in practice with the other teachers and the students that week, I felt I was remembering something, not learning something new or foreign. What was being enacted all around me felt just right. I was home.
One day, early on in the week, the assembly moved from the Zendo to the Buddha Hall for morning service, as usual. The doshi, or presiding priest, that morning was Zenkai
Zen
Blanche Hartman. Is that how she says her? Is that it?
Zen
Zenkai?
Zen K.
Zenkai. Okay. My German is slipping in. Um, a senior member of the community and the first woman to become abbot of a Zen temple outside of Asia. I was still learning the forms, so I was watching carefully, and that morning, as Blanche approached the altar with her attendant to offer incense, I could see an upright dignity and devotion that was both gently deliberate and very powerful. She returned to the bowing mat and carefully set out her zaigu,
Mhm.
good, or bowing cloth, and then offered her bows. I could hardly take in what I was witnessing. Of course, it's easy to say what was happening. This woman was bowing, but the entire event was an experience of something so full of devotion, I was stunned. I didn't know what it was, but whatever it was, I wanted that. Um, can I ask a question,
Sure.
which I'm sure most people know the answer to, but I don't? When it talks about the forms, what does that mean?
It's all of the ways that you enact or embody the practice, the bowing, the way you enter a room, the uh, ritual parts of service, the things that are sort of I would say, the customs or the etiquette of Zen practice.
That makes a lot of sense. That's what I sort of felt it was. But if this book is also for people who are just learning about it, somewhere you might want to, maybe it was just in the index or something, put
Yeah, we have a
the
glossary.
definition, glossary. See, you know these words. I knew them too long ago.
Later that day, I asked her assistant if I could meet with her. So the following morning during Zazen, I think this is a messed up sentence. As I sat in anticipation the next day, I was tapped on the shoulder and silently led to the room where I could meet with Blanche. She was not sitting in a formal way, waiting for my arrival for Dokusan, the name for meeting privately with the teacher. She was waiting for me in the hallway just outside the door, and with a silent bow as welcome, gestured for me to enter with her. I stepped into the small room with tatami mats over the old wooden floors. There was a beautiful altar and two Zafus and Zabutons facing each other. I waited as Blanche lit the candle on the altar and then lit a piece of incense from it. She motioned for me to stand in front of the small altar while she stood just to the side holding the incense. She guided me through the forms. Sidestep in front of the Buddha image on the altar, offer a standing bow, wait with my hands still pressed together in gasho, while she placed the smoking stick of incense just in front of my hands. He told me to take the stick of incense carefully. It was such an intimate transfer, warm hand to warm hand, as they say. She then showed me how to place it into the ash in the small bowl, upright and on fire, like me. We both bowed, and she had me come to my seat, and she took hers.
It's a beautiful description.
Yeah.
Mm. Why had this teacher suddenly and surprisingly become my attendant, instructing me how to make this tender offering? It was an enactment of what I had seen the previous morning in the communal service, but now it was personal, intimate, and immediate. I had met what I had longed for. I have no memory of what we talked about. I do remember the embodied feeling of being met fully and the story she told me about when she met with Suzuki Roshi in this same way. She said, I could see in his eyes as he looked at me that all he saw was Buddha, and I could not understand that. Neither could I. So we're skipping Donna because she needs to rest her voice.
Oh, okay. I think it's you, Kim, then.
At the end of that week, when it was time for me to leave, I walked down to Market Street in San Francisco and found a flower shop. I bought one glorious calla lily. I had written a small poem about our meeting that morning and had made a card with the poem and included a brief message of gratitude, which I paired with the flower. I left them both on the small table outside the door of her apartment at City Center. I had found my teacher and it had begun. And I guess this is the poem.
Yeah.
Floorboards creak in darkness. Cold breeze over the windowsill. Dharma, Buddha, Dharma, flowers.
I love this picture of her. It's with a bouquet of flowers for her birthday. She's so happy. So this is the end of part one. And from some perspectives, it might seem like this is totally unnecessary because we're not really talking about even Appamada yet. So the question in my mind is always, is this something that people appreciate and want to read about, or is this totally something extra? If we come to the point where we publish this as a book, would this be included or would it not be included, do you think?
I think it draws you in. I think because Appamada and Zen may be very foreign to some people who are going to be reading this, or even if you've been involved, it first brings you to people and their experiences and what they did and what they felt, which to me is the ultimate Zen process, that it's the people that you meet, it's Buddha that you meet. It's a meeting of that. And I really think that this, now do you want it at the beginning? That might be something to think about, but I think it works. Um, but I think it is very important that you have this personal connection, because other well, I don't even know what to call it, but other spiritual practices don't necessarily focus on the people connection or the Buddha connection, or that they don't focus on connection, and I think that's what this is.
It's
Is
helpful.
connection.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you. So, hi, Milan.
Hi, Malin.
Oh, good afternoon, evening.
Welcome, welcome. You'll be reading after Melissa.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think definitely it should be there. And also in terms of Appamada being a contemporary Zen center, it really indicates that there's roots.
Yeah, that's what I thought might be helpful for people to see, these very ordinary beginnings in contemporary lives, not in ancient ancestors, Buddha ancestors. So that was my thought about it. But I always wonder, is this like something that people find interesting and helpful?
So I could go now to the website. This is all I have in this document.
Oh,
But I'll go to the website and I think I can go to the next chapter then.
Yeah, part 2. We're already up to part 2, so I don't know, guys. You might have to take a breather in the middle, not write as fast as you guys are reading, right? Well, we'll take up some other book. Did you find it?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
just need to share.
Can you do
So you,
one more?
you just read, and I think it's Melissa.
It is. Thank you. Yes, now I can see it. Peg. In Austin, I eagerly launched my academic career, teaching classes, going to faculty meetings, getting to know the campus, the students, and most of all, the technology. I was in classrooms equipped with networked computers, teaching new courses I created, like information architecture, knowledge uh, ecologies, nonviolent rhetoric, oh my God, and course building for the electronic classroom. I was actively developing the college level learning record, mentoring graduate students, and helping develop a new interdisciplinary technology, literacy, and culture. I was regularly presenting at national conferences on technology, writing, and assessment.
So just to go back, this is part 2, which is training in the way.
Mm.
This is about the training that we experienced. Okay. So now it's Milan.
Okay. In my spare time, I hung out with my dear friend and kindly mentor, John Slatin, in
Slayton.
Slating, in the computer writing and research lab, where graduate students and faculty were developing methods to teach with technology and humanities courses, a novel concept. I could soon come to direct this lab, which hosted 100 sections of undergraduate writing and literature courses, graduate seminars, and open hours. In this way, I learned quite a bit about teaching and learning with technology, especially the teaching of writing, which was rapidly changing in these environments. My projects were winning awards. John and I got a huge grant from the federal government to develop the learning record for online environments. And my dissertation was being published as a book, The Wealth of Reality, an Ecology of Composition. It was a full-on academic life filled with teaching, mentoring graduate students, faculty meetings, and department responsibilities, preparation for tenure in addition to my other roles.
Okay, I'll read about John. This is my dear friend, John Slayton. John was a pioneer in the development of methods for using technology to teach in the humanities, especially literature and writing. He created the Computer Writing and Research Lab at UT so that students, graduate students, and faculty could work together in this effort. He sometimes said he created the lab to make English expensive and therefore respected by the university administration. As he lost his vision, he became an internationally renowned expert in web accessibility for people with various kinds of impairments. His warmth, sense of humor, and brilliant mind attracted talented people who loved to work with him. Even after he developed a leukemia that would ultimately kill him, he continued to teach from his own experience. He and his wife Anna were dear friends as well as mentors. He made me a better teacher, a more courageous explorer of new technologies, and a better friend. We lost a great light when he died in 2011. My first real sense of a bodhisattva in the world.
So Peg, I think it's you.
I just did read.
Oh, you just did. I'm so sorry. You did it right. Exactly. Then, in the spring of 1996, when Ben was 15, I bought a house in a little neighborhood a mile from campus, which required a lot of work before we could move in. I had 30 days and little money to get it ready. So I became a general contractor for a variety of painters, carpenters, tile setters, floor refinishers. This house would, in just 9 years, become the home of Appamada.
And of course,
Wait. Oh, you're Donna's waiting. Okay. Yeah.
I had a Zen habit on the side. I was sitting daily and connecting with Joko for Diveson on the phone every 2 weeks. Occasionally, I would fly to San Diego for a session. I had even briefly explored another Zen group in Austin, the Austin Zen Center, led by Flynn Sparks. But my schedule really couldn't fit one more thing.
Live Oak Zen. When we arrived in Austin, Ben was 14, starting a new high school, and unlike most of the boys, he was not at all interested in cars and sports. He was completely smitten with technology and art. He asked if we could attend a Unitarian church with a youth group that some girls he knew had talked about. And that is how I found myself most Sunday mornings sitting in Live Oak Unitarian Church in Northwest Austin, so new they did not yet even have a minister. They were asking members of the fledgling congregation to give the Sunday talks, and eventually, since I was sitting there every week, they asked me to give a talk on the internet. The internet? What did that have to do with Unitarianism or religion? I was baffled. I proposed to give a talk on Joko's book, Everyday Zen, and they happily agreed, being Unitarians.
During the talk, I introduced a brief 5-minute meditation to give people a taste of Zen practice. Afterward, several people approached me and asked if I could start a Zen group. No, I replied. You need to have a teacher who is authorized to have a Zen group. But they were determined. Finally, I said that I could come before the Unitarian service and at least ring the bells for timing meditation, whatever kind of meditation anyone wanted to do. But you really need to work with a teacher, I insisted. And so we began sitting before service, two 20-minute meditation periods with 7 minutes of walking meditation between. Every week we could read one of the talks in Everyday Zen or listen to a tape of one of Joko's talk. Joko offered to give Daisan by phone to anyone in the little group, and several people began working with her. Often in those early years, before he headed off the college at the Art Institute, Ben could join us too, to my delight.
Okay, I'll read about the house. The house had been lived in since it was built by a professor and his wife in 1937. He had passed away, and she was finally moving into assisted care at the age of 91. But nothing had been done for the house inside since the 60s, and I had only $5,000 to work with. This had to take care of painting the entire interior, rebuilding the fireplace and tile surround, removing the ugly wall-to-wall carpeting, refinishing the hardwood floors throughout the house, and installing recessed lighting throughout. A lot of work was done in the years following: exterior painting, a kitchen renovation, a bathroom renovation, a new roof, built-in bookshelves, a new HVAC system, and a new entry deck. The little house was built in the back in 2008, and the whole property was professionally landscaped, thanks to a generous bequest. Here's how it looked in 2007. Already, a lot of work had been done on it.
I would suggest for that paragraph that instead of the little house was built in the back, I would say a little house.
Oh, uh-huh.
Because we
Okay.
don't,
I think
I mean,
so.
it's a new character.
Yeah, right. All right, that's a good point. I'm making all these little notes.
Okay, here we go. One morning, I arrived to find yellow police tape surrounding the little storefront office complex where the church had been meeting. A fire had destroyed the floor above, and water had flooded the church's space. What to do? Eventually, we had permission to meet at a local elementary school while the church sorted itself out. There we sat zazen on gray linoleum floors while fluorescent lights buzzed noisily above. We were surrounded by tiny chairs and tables, not exactly conducive to meditation, but still we sat. Afterwards, we would go to a little Vietnamese restaurant nearby and have a bite together.
The church moved to another strip shopping center, taking several storefronts. And so we were given a separate space from the main meeting room. It had a lurid mural on one wall that had been painted by the high school students in the youth group and generally was filled with metal folding chairs. One of these folding chairs served as our altar with a stone, a candle, a flower, a cup of water, and we neatly folded the rest to make room for our cushions. Some mornings, the room would be filled with teenagers in sleeping bags from a sleepover or a pancake breakfast for newcomers. The church was growing, and it was soon obvious that even though our embryonic Sangha was still small, we would need to find another space for what we were now calling the Live Oak Zen Group.
Zen nomads. We became Zen nomads. I ran into Flint Sparks at a talk and told him about our dilemma. He told me his Zen meditation group was just leaving a space that he had designed in a yoga studio nearby. It only seated 6 people, which was perfect for our group. It turned out to be, of course, exquisitely beautiful, with hardwood floors, a soshi screen on the window, and a built-in altar. What a lovely space. We quickly felt at home there. We didn't mind that the occasional yoga student would interrupt our meditation, thinking our tiny zendo was the changing room, or that yoga intensives would take over on some weekends. It suited our little group just fine.
Meanwhile, Flint's group had moved to a space on West Avenue, which I visited too a few times. Flint was tall, handsome, gracious, and assured. It struck me that he was doing Zen properly, with correct Japanese Zen forms, and he had been going back and forth to the San Francisco Zen Center, so he knew how things should properly be done. He had even sent for a fully authorized teacher with Dharma transmission to lead the Sangha. But meeting Flynn was startling, even alarming, and definitely confusing. I had the immediate sense that we had known each other a very long time, that we had worked together, that our lives were somewhere entwined, not romantically, but karmatically. It made no sense to me. I couldn't understand it, so I simply withdrew.
And I was busy. My academic career, my terrific son, and my tiny Live Oak meditation group consumed my time and energy completely. And so it went for 7 years, right up to September 11th, 2001.
9/11, a turning point. Everyone who is old enough to recall 9/11 remembers that day vividly. The images of the plane hitting the building, the twin towers ablaze, the shock of seeing people leaping from the burning buildings, the live video of survivors who had stumbled down 99 flights of stairs to safety, the heroic charge of the firefighters who perished in the inferno are seared on our minds. I was teaching that morning, but I sent the students home as soon as I saw those images on the screen. I was terrified about what that shocking event meant for our nation, for the world. And I knew that under the Bush administration, our government's response would be horribly misguided, vengeful, and dangerous, as it turned out to be.
Oh, here. I felt an incredible urgency to set what was most important in my life at the very center, my son and family, and my Zen path. I was in so much anguish that I just wanted to sit zazen with people as many hours as I possibly could and investigating. I saw that Austin Zen Center had more meditation periods than any other Zen group. Everything in my life suddenly shifted. I was sitting at ACC mornings and evenings every day, attending the Saturday morning program, signing up for sessions, and still leading my Zen group on Sunday mornings. I began training seriously in the traditional Japanese Zen way. I had completely transformed my life, I often say, from being an academic with a bad Zen habit to being a dedicated Zen monk who worked at the university to support myself. By then, Ben was a student at the School of the Art Institute in Chicago, and so I had more time to devote to practice, but I was still having Daisen with Joko on a regular basis.
I just wanted to say something real quick. Were you here? I can't remember if this is the first time you've used the acronym for the Austin Zen Center, but if so, it needs to come right at before you use it. It
Uh-huh.
needs to come right after the first mention of here. It says where I saw the Austin Zen Center.
Uh-huh.
Then in parentheses it should be AZC or wherever you first mention it. That should come right in parentheses right after it, however you want to do it. Or maybe you did it and I just didn't see it earlier. That's a
Okay, thanks.
Was the
yeah,
place
you're welcome.
on West Avenue not the Austin Zen Center that you mentioned in a few pages back? The Flint?
That was the beginning. They started out there on West Avenue and then they moved. And they had just moved in August before 9/11 to the place on Washington Avenue, Washington Square.
But this is not the Austin Zen Center, the place on West Avenue, or is it?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
but
Yeah,
but
that's a
you
little
mentioned
confusing.
earlier a place on West Avenue, but
Yeah,
but you didn't want to name it then as Austin Zen Center because it wasn't yet.
I didn't know yet. At that point, I didn't know what it was. I just knew that he had moved his group. I didn't know that it had a name even.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to
Yeah,
make one. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Melissa.
no, I was just saying then definitely you have to clarify it there where you put it in. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just thinking, I'm reading a little further on. I was thinking, Kim, can you scroll back up a little bit to the beginning of that page? Yeah, there. I was thinking it would be, I would like to hear a little bit more about the effect that 9/11 had in relation to Zen in your life. I mean, I know you maybe just to flesh that out a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a thought.
That's what I have just been talking about in the paragraphs before, where I was talking about
Right.
I shifted everything so that Zen came to the center.
Right.
Maybe it's one or two sentences that you're talking about, Anne, of how this connection occurred or what happened that made this change in you.
Well, that's that whole paragraph. I felt an incredible urgency to set what was most important in my life at the very center in response to this event, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
It flows.
just wanted to sit zazen with people as many hours as possible.
Yeah.
That's sort of where
I think maybe, and this is just, from someone who doesn't know the whole thing. I think where you say I felt an incredible urgency to set what was most important to me, to my life, because you've talked about something else in between. I think that what might solve everything is to say this caused me to feel an incredible urgency, or some connecting thing like that. I think would be helpful.
uh-huh.
Just again to keep, for the reader to be able to keep in mind, because now the reader is thinking about 9/11 if they were available at that time, I guess.
I thought, that would
And you said,
follow from the paragraph before it.
right. And and the thing is that in your mind you're thinking about it all, and it all makes sense because it was very um linear isn't the word I want for it, but it was all flowing to you, right? But for the reader, because you have something in between, kind of how you were feeling, and then you're talking about the practicality of it. I
Yeah.
think just a couple words. I
I
this
think I,
caused me to feel,
I think I would just say,
because that's just a suggestion.
I think I would just say, so I felt.
Well, yeah, yes, that would work beautifully. Yeah.
It's good. Okay.
I'm thinking also how you've recommended to people who had devastating things happen in their life to sit.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Just wanted to sit with people. Yeah.
And I think that is so interesting and important to me, that you didn't want to just sit in meditation. You
Oh,
didn't want to sit on the floor in your bedroom and meditate. You wanted
Right.
to be with people. And I find that a whole different way of thinking about meditating
Mm-hmm.
with a group of people. So then that's obviously playing into the whole Zen. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a beautiful sentence, and it really makes one stop and think about how important that is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different. Maybe I want to be alone with my own mind anyway.
I can relate to you. And I really like this, that I often say, from being an academic with a bad Zen habit to being a dedicated Zen monk who worked at the university to support myself. I think that that encompasses so much in so few words about the transformation in your life.
Yeah.
I think it's a brilliant
It's
um,
amazing.
thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. It's very helpful to know the things that uh, the people connect with is very important. Okay. I think Milan.
Uh, I lost the place.
I think we're
Okay.
here.
Okay, the great anthrax scared upon the nation. Sitting Sazen, I was overcome with terror about the whole catastrophe, and I began shaking. At that moment, I saw a heavy and velvet curtain and pulled it back. Then I saw a kind of gremlin started at a massive orange keyboard. He was raging across it wildly playing and pumping the pedals when he spotted me. We alarmed each other. I said, "So have we read the past or we just started in here?" "Oh, yes. I'm sorry." We alarmed each other. I said, "So this must be the fear organ, right? There's one whole keyboard that ranges from worry to terror. This one goes from mild annoyance to fury." He looked
Chastened.
chest, chest, chased. I cannot.
Chastened.
Okay, but cut. I said, "You have been practicing my whole life. By now, you could play Carnegie Hall on that thing. You can have even improvise on requests from the audience. 9/11, George Bush, war, anthrax." I was shocked by how enormous that organ was, with its many keyboards and pedals and huge pipes above. The gremlin was startled, panicked, like the Wizard of Oz, when he was uncovered behind the curtain, but not as resourceful. I simply turned away and he vanished, along with the organ. I was continued peacefully in meditation. Now I was finally aligned with the deepest aspiration. From the ashes of great tragedy, I have vanquished fear and found great joy.
Zen rhetoric. Much later, in 2007, I found myself directing the largest writing center in the country with 85 consultants and 5 full-time staff. I was supervising graduate PhD students writing their dissertations and teaching graduate seminars and undergraduate classes, demanding work. All of my courses were hands-on interactive classes in computer-enriched classrooms. My students and I were excited, creative, and thriving. My courses began to center on students researching topics and then writing book chapters, planning, editing, and designing books we published at the end of the semester. 2 of these books are based on students studying and practicing Zen in my Zen rhetoric classes, True Beginner's Mind and The Whisper Within, Zen and Self.
I created the Zen rhetoric course when I realized that throughout our education, from a very early stage right through college and even graduate school dissertations, all of our instruction in writing had been divided into writing that was creative, poetry and fiction, or argument and persuasion, which form the vast majority of our instruction. This is how we foster a culture that is at once bellicose and grasping. We are hostile to and intolerant of viewpoints different from our own, and we are hapless pawns of our own impulses and desires, which are fueled and skillfully manipulated by persuasive marketing and social media. The world was hardening into us and them.
Well, I'm just wondering, are you suggesting a middle way between these two avenues? Is that part of?
I'm about to explain that.
Okay,
I think the next paragraph will help.
okay. The Zen rhetoric course was designed to introduce college students to other ways of making meanings that transform people's mind and lives and shape the way people can relate to each other without argument or persuasion. Zen is not the other kind of rhetoric to do so. Psychotherapy, myth, and many other cultures use language, and many make shared knowledge by other means. In these ways, people come to agreements and make decisions together, change minds and hearts too. The, the linear logic of argument and persuasion is not the only or even the best means to foster individual or societal evolution. How could we ever create peace and harmony among cultures and traditions so unable to understand each other because their ways of using language were so utterly different?
Zen rhetoric was what I knew best, and so I taught the eloquence of silence, the scaffolding of Zen forms such as bows and ceremony, the beauty of gesture, the serenity of Zen
Calligraphy.
calligraphy, the meaning-seeking practice of inquiry. But my students loved best the spontaneity and surprising use of language in encounter found in ancient Zen koans. There is something magical and liberating in a koan, even for college students with no previous knowledge of Zen, that was resonated and delighted us from 1,000 years ago right down to the present day. I agree.
In their chapters, written and revised over the course of the semester, students started by recounting their often hilarious preconceptions of Zen coming into the class, as well as charming self-awareness. Like many young Americans, my first introduction to Zen was through my popular culture's representation and stereotypes of monks sitting still for hours in smoky, incense-filled rooms, possibly doing kung fu battle afterwards, and then enjoying some fine green tea while composing nonsensical haikus. All of this occurring on some craggy mountaintop with wispy clouds grazing the rooftops. Zachary?
Schrader.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
I had asked them at the beginning of the semester, has anyone found the argument that will stop someone smoking? Has anyone found the persuasive words that will convince someone to love you when they don't? What logical reasoning can keep you on a diet? Why do we keep arguing and fighting with each other? Is there some other way to transform people's minds and hearts? Some way to free us from conflict?
Should I read the sidebar or should I go on?
Let's see. I think I think we can read the sidebar now. That's probably a good idea.
Okay. Words make worlds, a reflection. Words do have power. Names have power. Words are events. They do things, change things. They transform both speaker and hearer. They feed energy back and forth and amplify it. Ursula K. Le Guin. It is a commonplace that the way we use language shapes our shared reality, our experience of ourselves, each other, and the world. If we want a better life, we need to change the way we talk to ourselves and each other. My experience writing right now at 4 a.m., I'm sitting up in bed, a pillow under my knees, writing with a mechanical pencil in my Tome River paper journal on a lap desk, a thermos of English breakfast tea cradled in my lap, and my little dog curled in her bed under the window. I am 74 years old. In this large bedroom, there are 2 bookcases stocked with books and a writing desk, though I prefer writing in bed. The room is big enough to lay out my yoga mat for Tai Chi, and there's also a power plate for strength exercises. The dresser and the bookshelves are topped with photos, mostly family, but the low bookcase under the windows has an altar with a small Buddha, Manjushri, Samantabhadra, and Avalokiteshvara statues, and photos of Joko, Shunryu Suzuki, and Dogen. A small blue rug with a geometric design gives my dog Jizo secure footing for launching onto and off of the bed. On the walls are 2 woodblock prints by a well-known Japanese artist. They are identical compositions from the same woodblock with very different moods. One shows the ship with its tiny rowboat trailing behind, approaching the harbor at night, a study in deep blues. In the other, the same ship seems quiet and still in a misty morning, shrouded in pale taupe and soft grays. On the wall facing me is Ben's beautiful photo of Nora and me, flanked on the left by a poem I wrote about her, and on the right by a framed quote she hand-lettered for me. This is a sacred space. It is, should I go on? The next person can read.
This person can go on.
It is late April. The weather is suddenly chilly, in the 40s. But the bare tree branches are suddenly festooned with new leaves. The daffodils and tulips blazing in the gardens of my neighborhood. Soon the streets will be lined with leafy canopies of huge ancient trees. Already the children in shorts and t-shirts are taking to the streets on bicycles, tossing baseballs, and crawling down the sidewalk on new scooters, calling out joyfully to each other. Neighbors pause now to chat instead of hurrying to their cars, collars turned up against the cold. Sociality returns and spills out into the streets, lawns, and sidewalks. We are all out walking our dogs, taking our time. Soon it will be warm enough for outdoor parties on backyard patios.
This is, I'm sorry. This is a world created in language, an experience of a particular time and place. From here, you can take it in a
polemical.
palmatical direction, railing against privilege that binds itself into the world's suffering. But you don't really know that, do you? You could go in another direction with sentimental affection and nostalgia, longing for a simpler golden times of an imaginary past. You might shame the author or celebrate her or find the writing boring, but that, after all, is your choice. For myself, I rest in gratitude for this astounding beauty here and now on the late season of a full life.
So, one of my essential functions in the life of the Sangha is often to gather our collective experience, aspiration, and potential into language that can reflect back to the Sangha who we truly are and can be in coming together. In this way, I hope to express a vision of our shared reality that may lie just beyond awareness for most people, caught up in the complexity and challenges of a contemporary life, in their thoughts and plans and human relationships.
Perhaps this answers the question of how someone devoted to the silence of meditation can also be dedicated to a lifelong study of how language works, how it can create, foster, heal, shape, infect, transform, or even destroy our minds and hearts and our world.
So are we going to write now?
I don't think we read this part. Did we? This paragraph.
No, we didn't. We took off with the sidebar.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So in their chapters is where we would end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but that's the end of this section, right? So we should finish that, right?
You want to finish this section? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we just have this little bit.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Okay. In their chapters, following their initial misconceptions about Zen, some students described their mounting anxiety because they were already committed to a religious faith or tradition, Judaism, Catholicism, Southern Baptist, or because they were non-believers in religion, and their relief in discovering that Zen could be studied and practiced without conflict with their own faith or faithlessness. They began to realize Zen as a path of inquiry, a methodology for practice independent of belief or dogma.
Finally, in the last part of their chapters, they describe the depth and richness of what they had come to understand about the life-changing effects of coming together in stillness and silence and encountering the liberating language of Zen. We started every class with 5 minutes of meditation. Our required readings included Steve Hagen, Buddhism Plain and Simple, Suzuki Roshi, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Joko Beck, Everyday Zen, Rick Hansen, Buddha's Brain, Dale Wright, Philosophical Meditations on Zen Buddhism, along with a longer list of recommended texts which many students read. Students each wrote one chapter, and each was part of a 5-student editing circle. They learned about typography and page layout, designed the book cover, and laid out the interiors, managed print preparation and book publishing online. They debated pricing and decided any profit should go to a local nonprofit organization. They were so excited to have a chapter in a published book, so proudly to finally hold it in their hands. And they did all of this in one semester. Meanwhile, I was somehow becoming a priest.
Okay. Okay, so far? So we should write for a little bit. Maybe until about quarter after, maybe.
Okay.
We'll give us about 50 minutes for discussion too. Okay. Sorry, I had to change the view. So you can see all the people in gallery view.
I'm seeing chat. In chat, I'm seeing messages from October, September. I've never seen that. Are you guys seeing that? Oh, September 2nd.
No,
August 12th.
no, I don't see. I don't see anything that isn't from today.
I don't see that either.
Okay,
Special,
okay.
Kim.
I guess I just have an imagination.
I think that happened to me the other day when it may be just when maybe you had an update or something.
Okay.
Awesome. Anybody want to share anything, or do you have any comments about what we've covered?
I can share. I'm still thinking about how and why 9/11 was so transformational. I wonder what you thought you could do with the practice and what benefit you found from sitting with people. Why does one practice? This seems like a great place to say more about this. Why would you embrace a vow that would lead you? Was it just survival of your psyche, or was it to benefit all beings? I want the memory from this chapter to not be how 9/11 moved you as much as to how it made you become a bodhisattva. And then I put, rather than how it was the only way you could survive the horror, was much have been your excuse me, your initial response. It was a wake-up call, but what woke up? Why should one practice who doesn't have such a wake-up call? I can make assumptions, but I want to know more. It's a similar reaction to the part where the tornado came through your house.
Yeah.
I think it's just such a potential place to really talk about more than you did.
Well, that's what's going to happen in the next chapter is how that all got awakened.
Mm.
Okay.
Well, it's the right question to ask. That's basically, I'm writing in response to the questions I assume readers have at each point. So at a certain point, you're asking this question: what is this book about? That's what the whole preface is about. The whole forward is
So that keeps you reading.
Yeah. Well, it keeps me connected with the reader's curiosity, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's great. Yeah, it's very helpful. I know it's not a lot of time, but if you have other thoughts or comments too about this, this part of it, it's the beginning of our training. This is what this part 2 is about.
Mm.
How our training unfolded. There will be plenty of that.
I can share if you want. It's a little different.
No, that's perfect.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's whatever it is perfect.
It is what it is. Yes. Okay. It is interesting to me that we are studying the history of Appamada at the same time I'm taking a journey to discover my Jewish ancestors. My friend and genealogist is tracing my Jewish family, and along the way, I'm discovering, or perhaps rediscovering, traditions I never fully understood. I took a class in Jewish memoir writing, and the teacher looked out at us from her Zoom window and said, "Don't worry if you are qualified to be here. We are all Jewish or related, and we are writing about our past. That makes us all qualified." I felt a deep warmth as I looked around my screen at the 20 people I didn't know and felt connected and at home. Finding Zen writing has been a wonderful thing for me. The same feeling of being at home. I don't have much in the way of a practice. I have a meditation I do as I go to sleep. And of course, I sit in each of the Zen classes I participate in. I'd like to build a deeper practice, and perhaps this coming year will be when I do it. I like that Zen is of and unto itself and can be learned and practiced along with other beliefs, so I feel it will be a companion on my journey into my Jewish heritage.
That's great. I love that. And that was sort of what my students discovered too. Oh, this is a method of inquiry. This isn't a belief system that is in conflict with my beliefs. This is a kind of a process for inquiring. And so I think that's great. That's perfect.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to be discovering those roots.
Mhm.
Mm.
I always felt sort of rootless because I was a Navy brat. We traveled all over when I was a kid, and I was in different schools. And every time somebody asked me, where are you from? It's such a baffling question. The
Right.
Philippine Islands, Hingham, Massachusetts, Arlington, Virginia. Um, there isn't a sense of being from someplace, and I think
Right.
why this project feels important to me because it's where roots really got established.
Mm.
Yeah. We don't have a family genealogy. There's nothing like that in my history. So it's great to hear about it.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think there was going to be very much, but my friend is amazing, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they found a whole lot.
Yeah. I can share what I put down in my sort of brief notes here. I said, it's been so long since this part of the book was written, it feels new to me. I'm sure it could be pared down, but I don't really know what can be removed and the gaps smoothed over. I've tried to simply be as truthful as I can. Of course, my own view is limited. That's why it's so helpful to get the perspective of readers. I've tried to include those things that feel relevant to the story of Appamada's remarkable development. Because I can't really know the mind of others, it's told from my point of view. That is why it's so important to be sure to include the voices and perspectives of Sangha members. So far, I'm satisfied with what is set down here as a kind of permanent record. It seems like I'm the one who's responsible to do it.
Mm.
Guess I have one more question. At the time, it seems like maybe you didn't know what was that this would only be as an afterthought that you could explain this.
Right. That's right. And in fact, I had to get some geographical distance in order to be able to do it.
Mm.
I could not have done this writing there. I couldn't have done it. I was too entirely caught up in the everyday care of the Sangha, the things
Oh, there meaning in Austin.
yeah, right. Yeah. This little bit of a space has made it possible for me to really deeply understand what it is that I want to say about this.
Mm.
And it may be very different from other people. I'm sure it's quite different from other people's perspective on the Sangha. But I think it may fill in some gaps in their knowledge. Some of
Mm.
things grew up, how they evolved. So that's my hope, is that people will go, oh, I never knew that was how that got started or whatever, Um, so that I don't know anybody else who can write it from the beginning this way. So
Right. You just have to. It'll be what it needs to be, and you're the one bringing it to be. The Unitarian church that you talked about, is that the one on Grover Street
No, it's
now?
way out. It's out, where is it? What is that?
Oh, in
In
Cedar Park?
out 183 all the way to, what is it, 620?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's one we used to live next to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my mother went there for a while she was here.
They moved from the little strip shopping center they were in to into an actual church. And
Yep, it's
super happy.
big now.
That's big. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
the
They want
arch. It's got a huge arch.
they wanted me to talk on the internet because they were all working in the tech industry. And I thought, how am I gonna, like, how am I gonna make this connection? I
Right.
feel like anything I could talk about, even though I was teaching in those networked classrooms, I just felt like, what am I gonna say about this that has anything to do with Unitarianism?
It's interesting. For a semester or so in college, I lived in the belfry of a Unitarian church,
Oh,
and I was like the custodian in exchange for living there.
cool.
Vines were growing through my windows. It was pretty nice.
Quasimodo and the
Hilarious. Well, it's very heartening to me to hear your voices reading it and have a chance to chat a little bit with you about it. I'm still waiting for chapter 11 for Cassie's final photos, and then we can post that. I'm working, chapter 12 is well drafted now, and then I just need to lay that out in pages and add images and so forth to that. So it is coming along. It's very slow. I'm surprised at how slow it's just slow. It's just like you can't push the river. It's just, you cannot. So, yeah, now we have the holidays coming up and it's a lot of, everybody is determined to make it the best Christmas ever because who knows if we'll ever have a Christmas again. So, so there's a lot of activity, it's very fraught.
Uh,
So, yeah, so it's really nice to have this time and I really appreciate, you taking the time to work through this book with me and figure out how we can make it even better. It's very, very
I'm really enjoying it.
good. Glad. Yeah, it's been quite a fun project for me. I'm really enjoying it. So
Mm.
You can feel that. You can feel that in the book.
really, oh, good. Yeah, because it's a joyful thing, to have a song is a joyful thing. Not many people have that opportunity.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a happy, happy thing. Come together with people who have a shared spiritual interest. Yeah. So, well, we're at the end of our time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you next time. Are we meeting next week? But not the week after? I'm not sure what the schedule is
This
exactly.
is the 9th, and next week would be the 16th. So,
And then
16th and 7 is 23rd.
yeah, we won't meet on the 20.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we won't meet on the 23rd. I'm going to be off between my
Okay.
birthday on the 18th and January 2nd. So
Okay. We'll skip the 23rd. I think we were going to close Appamada on the 24th, but
So
that's fine.
should we meet on the 30th?
No, we don't. Appamada is going to be closed.
No,
Yeah.
not the 23rd and not the 30th. So
Yeah.
it'll be 3 weeks before we.
we'll meet in the new year.
That'll be fun.
I hope everybody has a very lovely
Thank you. You too.
Yeah.
Right? Is that right?
Oh, very lovely. What?
Do we have Jewish holidays are coming up?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah,
Hanukkah is, yeah. Hanukkah starts Christmas Day night.
oh, really? It's late.
Yeah, it's late this year.
For someone who's been studying the Torah for what, 52 years or whatever, you've really, you're really falling apart here in your.
I know, I'm sacrilegious. Well, I really think that we should celebrate the holidays of the place where we're living,
I think we should celebrate all the holidays. I don't think
or
we should.
all holidays. That's
Yeah, we
fine.
do. We do that a lot of times.
Solstice, the
We bring in
equinox.
holiday.
Yeah.
Well, my grandson, when he was born and he was getting older and he was starting to talk, all of a sudden he was asking questions about being Jewish, which we are his dad and nobody's practiced being Jewish since my grandparents. And he was asking all these questions, this little tiny kid. So my daughter's always been interested, and I know some, and she did. So he has been bringing us back there for
Wow,
however, yeah.
that's
It's
wonderful.
just, it was an amazing thing to see this little tiny kid.
Yeah.
Because he can, he found out about Shabbat and he could celebrate, learned all the songs. I'm like, okay, it's so cute.
Yeah. Oh, lovely.
Hmm.
Good night. Thank you.
Yeah, good
Good night,
night.
Millen.
Bye, Malin.
Bye,
Good
Mom.
night.
Bye, Donna. I hope you feel
Bye.
better.
Oh, can't get to the door. Oh no. Bye. Thank you all.